Hi, friends. Susan Blackwell from the Spark File here to let you know that the doors are open for the Spark File Illume, a 9-month group creativity coaching mastermind that invites you to be the Chief Creative Officer and Chief Marketing Officer of your creativity. But what does that mean? That means in 9 months in Illume, you will clarify and advance your big creative goals and learn how to effectively share your work with the world. Now, if you're listening to this and you're an experienced creative or an accomplished professional who seeks a space where it is safe to attempt something you've never tried before, or complete a big creative project, or take your work to the next level and acquire the skills needed to share your creative work with the world, Illume might be right for you. We are calling in emotionally intelligent, high-functioning creatives who are ready to level up. You can find out more by going to thesparkfile.com/Illume, but do it now to find out if Illume is right for you and to save with early bird discounts. That's thesparkfile.com/Illume. Take a leap, take a risk. Go to thesparkfile.com/Illume and join us for Illume.
The Sparkfile podcast may contain profanity and other adult content.
Please use your discretion.
When I bump into something that inspires me, I dump it in my spark file. Could be something that I want to make or how I want to be. I pump it in my spark file. I jump into my spark file. Let's open up the spark file.
Welcome to the Spark File, your one-stop pinch pot for creative inspiration.
I'm Laura Camion.
And I'm Susan Blackwell. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome. You may be asking yourself, what exactly is a Spark File? Where do I get one? What do I file in it? These are good questions, and we have got answers.
A Spark File is the place where you consistently collect all your inspirations and fascinations. And if you're like us and you're making stuff all the time, you know that sometimes the wellspring of inspiration can run a little dry. We're here to refill it.
We're on the lookout for fresh ideas, images, and inspiration that spark our creativity and pique our curiosity, things that inspire us to get up off of our tushies and make things like this podcast.
Or a rock band, complete with all the rehearsals and songwriting and music videos and live performances that go with it.
Or a grassroots web series that promotes an underdog musical and carries it all the way to Broadway.
Or a depiction of the world's most beloved frog.
Or a portrayal of the world's most dangerous frog.
Ooh, on today's Makersode, we're going to talk to someone who truly sparks us.
And that special someone is Matt Vogel. Matt, welcome to The Spark File.
Thank you.
Now
Thank you.
talk.
Now I can speak. Hello.
That's right.
That's what you
Hi.
said.
Thank you for, as you were saying your intro, which I didn't realize at first was the intro. I mean, I kind of had an idea a little bit into it, but at first I was like, oh, yeah, I've done that. Oh,
I've
that
done
sounds
something
like me
like
too. But
I relate to this.
yeah, this maybe I'll be able to talk about this.
That's you, Matt.
I guess it
We're
is.
talking about
That's
you.
you.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, real quick, the Spark File price of admission. You have to tell us a creative risk that you've taken recently. Can be anything in any way where you put something out there that was maybe not perfect, but it was progress.
All right. Well, here's what I'll say. So I'm Kermit the Frog. I play Kermit the Frog.
That's right.
For the Muppets. And I've only been Kermit the Frog for 2 years. It's not a long time, since 2017, right?
Okay.
And oh gosh, there's a cat fight.
There's literally...
It's me and Susan. we sometimes
Sorry, guys.
Before you go on, let's just paint the pictures for the listeners.
Yeah.
We're in Matt Vogel's finished basement.
Yeah.
Rec room.
That's right.
There's
Beautiful.
cats fighting.
Yeah.
Flynn, first grade
Yep.
Flynn,
First grade
is
Flynn is
hanging with
here.
us.
He's listening. He's going to be editing all of this later, making sure
That's
that I
right.
don't sound like
He's
an
our
idiot.
sound engineer.
Yes, he'll be helping out.
Yes.
That sounds good.
He counts the swears we say.
Yes.
And every time he gets $1.
Mm-hmm. There you go. So I'm being very good because I curse like a sailor.
I'm going to do my best, Flynn.
So about 2 years ago, I had the unbelievable good fortune to be named Kermit the Frog
Yeah.
for the Muppets. And it was I mean, it's an unbelievable
a
honor. It's
big
huge.
deal.
Those are big
Absolutely.
flippers to fill.
Like,
BFD.
not many people
Yeah.
have filled those flippers.
Not many, no. Yeah. So this thing that we did a couple of years ago, we did a live show called The Muppets Take the Bowl. It was at the Hollywood Bowl, which is a huge venue.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And the thought was we're going to do a live Muppet show. And we're going to have the Hollywood Bowl Orchestra with us, and we're doing this huge Muppet show. Well, this was not long after I was named Kermit the Frog, and so this was going to be my
Debut.
debut as Kermit.
Do you have to pay into the swear jar for that?
I don't know. I think
Debut?
it's okay. I don't
It's
know.
borderline.
You can check. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was
Take
going
that
to
dollar,
have
though,
to.
Flynn.
Yeah.
Judges,
Make
Flynn.
a note. Was that Cursing?
Debut. I think you're going to
Yeah.
get like
No.
a
Yeah.
50
Yeah.
cents.
Yeah.
50
Okay.
cents.
There you
Half
go.
and half. Okay. He's like, I say but. So we were going to do this show, and it was going to be my debut as Kermit the Frog. So that was a little intimidating. It was a lot intimidating because it was 18,000 people. We were doing 3 shows over a weekend. It was a huge deal
Big
for
deal.
me.
The
A
Hollywood
very-
Bowl is a bit of an intimidating
It is.
debut to make. Yeah.
And so that was my debut as Kermit, and it was very,
Nervous making?
very nervous making. And, I don't know how successful I was. I ended up just leaning into the fear of
Yes,
it
yes.
and having a heck of a good time.
That is
I had a great time,
awesome.
but that was something that I was like, I don't know how successful
When you
this
get
is. or
scared,
not.
Yeah.
how does it manifest in your body?
When I get scared,
Yeah.
I have anxiety. I have
You get
terrible
anxious.
anxiety. I get very anxious. So I am not somebody who sleeps all the way through the night. I wake up at about 4:30 usually, and and whatever it is that's on my mind at that moment becomes the biggest deal and becomes a very fearful thing to me, and it's very hard for me to conquer that and get back to sleep.
Yeah.
Which is important. We all know that
I
sleep is
know.
Oh boy, do we need it.
yeah.
And you have a very physical job. And
So that's usually how the fears come out of me at night when I wake up at 4 in the morning.
Yeah.
that's a lot.
Yeah.
It is a lot. I mean, it's
Yeah.
Has it settled down
I'm just
now?
going to lay down.
You take a break.
Yeah, it has.
It
I
seems
mean,
like you've earned it. Relax.
thank you.
Yeah, relax.
Thanks. It has relaxed a bit. The more that I do the character,
Yeah.
the more confident I feel.
Sure.
There's a great deal of just talking as the character, just like improv talking
Yeah.
as the character, as any of the characters that we play, really. And the better I get to know the characters, whatever they are, whether it's Big Bird or whether it's Kermit, the better I become, the more true to the character.
Hours you clock, the more you're like, it's in you.
I mean, it's like the 10,000
10,000 hours.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like
absolutely.
that, except
Hours clocked.
I should say, awesome. You are now admitted to the Spark file. Thank you so much.
Officially.
And
Thank
you've already tipped your cards. But for people who don't know you, Matt, how do you identify creatively? If somebody comes up to you and introduces themselves at a cocktail party and says, "What do you do?" What do you say?
I say, it depends on where I am, really.
It depends on if you want to blow minds.
Right.
Yes,
It
yes.
does, kind
Yeah.
of, because sometimes I'll be like, well, usually people don't.
Do you just go into the voice?
No.
Do you
I never
turn?
go
Never.
into the voice. No,
And
I
do you
don't.
people try to get you
Can
to
we
do
just
it?
improv?
Yes.
Can you just do that for
Some
me now?
people do.
I would never ask, but Susan would.
So hi,
sometimes I do.
my name is Debbie. What's your name?
I'm Matt. Hi,
Matt.
how are you?
I'm a manicurist.
Oh,
What do
really?
you do for a living?
Well, Debbie, I am
So
actually.
glad you asked.
Thanks for asking. I'm actually I work. Actually, here's what I do say.
What do you say?
I work on Sesame Street. I leave it there.
Yeah, and depending
then-
on the response,
Yes.
do you elaborate?
Because some people will be like, "Oh, that's cool," and then they'll go back to their
And some people-
shrimp cocktail, and then some people will be like, well, "What do you mean you work for
some
Sesame
people
Street?"
poop their pants.
Yeah, and then I'm like, "Well, I'm one of the." I work on the show. I'm one of the performers. Like I give out just little
Just
tiny
enough.
tidbits of the information, and then they're like, "Well, what characters do you play?"
String of pearls.
Yeah, and then when they say, "What characters do you play?" then I say, "Well,
You lay down the diamond.
Big Bird and the Count and all of these other characters." And then I'll say, "And I also work for the Disney Muppets, and I play Kermit the Frog and a bunch of other characters." And then that's kind of it.
Also, I just want to say,
but they usually don't say, do the voice.
Right.
But
Kids do, though. Kids do. And Susan.
Yeah, of course.
Makes sense.
I mean, that's about the same. That's the same category. Kids and Susan.
Yeah.
Hey.
I mean that in a good way.
It's a good way. Yeah, I think that's good.
For the people who don't know, so you just mentioned that 2 years ago you became Kermit, or the voice of Kermit, but you've been working on Sesame Street for a long time. Could you give us like a 60-second version of like how you got there?
Yes.
Great.
Go now. You want me to do it now?
And
Okay.
clock starts now.
All right. Okay. So I grew up in Kansas City.
Yes.
And I never knew, as a kid, I was a huge fan of the Muppet Show and of Sesame Street. I was a first generation Sesame Street watcher and a first generation Muppet Show watcher. And I built my own puppets out of masking tape and T-shirts. And I didn't know what I was doing. I was just making it up.
Yep.
But I didn't know that it was something you could do for a living. I think there was probably part of me that thought those guys do that. That's their job.
Yeah.
I never thought that was something that I could do. I'd entertain the kids in the neighborhood. This is going to go longer than a minute, but you can edit it down later.
Would you do little shows for them?
Yes, we would do shows. I made my brother help me, and he would play like all the girls' parts, and I would play all the guys' parts. I don't know why, but we would entertain the kids in the neighborhood, do PTA shows, whatever we were asked to do. And then as I grew
Pro-Am.
up,
Pro-Am.
Yeah. Wait, what?
Professional amateur. You were like,
yeah, I was. Yeah.
When you're moving into PTA show territory.
Yeah, there's potential that you might make some money.
That's
right.
But then here comes the sad part. When I was in 9th grade, I was in a talent show, and my dad had built the stage, and I had written this show with a teacher that we were going to perform, and we performed the show at the talent show. And this was like, there were all the heavy hitters were at the talent show, like the girl who played Iron Man on the bass, and the guy who sang The Journey, he sang like Faithfully, because this is where we were like in 1980.
So a rock tenor.
Yeah. So I won that talent show. I won. And it was amazing to win. And
puppets?
With the puppets. Yeah, I did puppets. Yeah. And through the cheers, I heard some booing. I heard boos. And that really affected me. They were
really voting for the rock tenor.
They were. They really wanted.
And they were sore losers.
But that cut through, and that's what you heard.
Very much so.
Of course.
That was the thing. I don't know how loud the booing was. There may have been one person, but that was what I heard, and that is what affected me.
How did that live within you? Like you carried that with you?
Yes, I put the puppets away. I didn't do any puppet stuff. I was done with puppets. I was like, up to that point, I had done stuff at school, and it was it was very just free and open, and I was able to create and do whatever I wanted to do, and teachers and people and kids, they all supported that as far as I knew. And this one incident happened, and I shut it down.
Two thoughts.
Oh my God.
One is I have this, when we teach, we talk about this moment that can happen. It can happen in middle school. It can happen in high school. It can happen at a lot of different sort of junctures in the life. But it's like you could be the most free flowing, creative, self-expressed individual. And then you hear the boo through the cheers, and your creative conduit, like your garden hose, gets kinked, and it can stay with you for a long time.
Yes.
That I think it's unfortunate. And I think it's like a very human, it happens to a lot of us.
It's very common.
And it reminds me, we were just talking with Sarah Bareilles, and she had a similar situation where she was playing a song she had written, Water Dancer song, for her high school classmates. And she knew by their response that it was no bueno, and she didn't write or share any of her music until she was in her 20s on the other side of the world.
Years later.
I can see that is something that can happen very easily to somebody. And it can be as big as like the feeling that reaction of the whole room, or the reaction of one person's opinion of you.
That's right. But what we're finding is that this is a theme in so many creative people's lives, but successful creatives have overcome it in some way or another. They have said, okay, I'm going to get that back out of the drawer. I'm going to dust it off and I'm going to go for it. Or I'm going to get the puppets back out, or I'm going to go to Italy and start singing some songs again and do it nonetheless.
How did you?
Here's how that happened for me. I put those puppets away, right? And I think my mom just sensed that I needed some sort of creative outlet. And so she signed me up for acting classes at this children's theater that was by where I lived. And it's because of my involvement in that children's theater over the next several years of my development. It's called Theater for Young America in Kansas City. It's it used to be in Kansas. It used to be in Overland Park, Kansas, and now it's in Kansas City, Missouri, and it's in Union Station. In Kansas City.
Still thriving.
Still doing great work. And they do classes for kids, and then they do professional equity quality shows that they bring that students are bussed in to see. And I remember growing up there at that theater thinking, these are my people.
Yes.
These people get me. These people are my...
So you stepped back into the catcher's mitt of safety. I don't know why I call it that, but I always think of the title of the show, Fam, as when I got into that catcher's mitt of safety. That's when I was like, well, I'm safe in this room with these people. And it allowed my garden hose to get unkinked again.
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah. And I had that with these friends that I met, that I made very quickly at this theater and grew up with.
Yeah.
And I never brought puppets out, or I don't even remember mentioning that I had done this when I was younger. It was just now I was taking this new path, and I was able to be creative and be an actor. And that's why I went to Webster University in St. Louis, and that's what I did. And I actually, when I went to Webster, I did bring out puppets every once in a while. I had some that I had made, and I spent one summer with my roommate, Chad Harris, and we would go around to daycare centers, and we would do a water safety puppet show. And that was one of the things I did during the summer.
Was that something that you did
cool.
like volunteer, or were you paid for that?
I was paid for that.
You got paid, so you were going pro.
Yeah, going pro slowly. And then the way that I finally got to it and got to Sesame Street was right before I graduated. I made a videotape for the Jim Henson Company of me doing puppetry stuff, and I sent it to them, and they sent back a letter.
Wow.
A rejection letter.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And said, thank you
Pause
very
one
much.
second before you continue.
Yes.
But you sent that tape.
Yeah.
You sent it. Like you made you tried.
Yeah.
I think that's a beautiful moment. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I sent this tape. So and I don't know what made me do it. I think I knew that I was going to be in New York. I'm a lifelong Jim Henson and Muppets fan. I was going to be there for our senior showcase, and I thought, well, I should make a video, because who knows?
Because who knows?
And I sent this
why not?
videotape, and then they rejected me.
Okay.
And I thought, okay, well, I'm going to New York to be an actor anyway. That's fine. So we moved to New York. And on our way to move to New York, my then girlfriend, now wife, Kelly.
Shout out Kelly.
That's right.
Kelly.
She saw in the backstage, there was a picture of Kermit the Frog. It said, "Do you measure up to be a Muppet?" They were looking for somebody that was my height, my size, left-handed. So I answered the ad.
Yes.
And I said, I called them and I said, I'm not moving to New York for another month. And they said, call us when you do. And I was like, okay.
Okay.
We finally moved to New York. I answered that ad. I went to the audition. I met John Henson, Jim's youngest son.
Wow.
I met him. I was the last guy to audition that day. And he said, you want to go to lunch with me? And I go,
my gosh.
Yes, I do want to go to lunch with you, John Henson.
I just got chills.
I mean, I'd been in New York for maybe a month. Not that long at all.
Matt Vogel.
I went to lunch with John Henson. We talked. I probably told him that whole story that I told you now. And then he said, do you want to come up to my house for New Year's Eve? And I said, I do. I do.
When these do you want to go to lunch? Do you want to come to the house? Were you like, this feels like we're moving towards something?
You're like, do I have a job?
I mean, I didn't have the job as far as I knew.
Yeah.
I just was like, I mean, how can you say no? I'm not going to say no to John Henson asking me if I wanted to come up for New Year's Eve. You know, he was such a great guy. He was really, really great. And from there, I made another tape and I sent it in. And this time the person that had sent me the rejection letter sent me a, hey, we want to take another look at you kind of letter. And they invited me to workshops to come in and do puppet workshops. And
nice.
And
but they were also vibing you. I mean, if you've made something, you now know. Not only they wanted to check and see if you had the technical skills, they were also assessing whether they wanted to see your face every day.
Mm-hmm.
Like, would you be a good member of the family?
I think that's definitely now being where I am now and looking at the process and looking at how we do things.
Yeah.
That is true. You do want to have, I mean, I'm the puppet captain on Sesame Street, so it's part of my responsibility.
Aren't you a big deal?
It's a very fancy word. I'm hoping to make it to Admiral. But
they give you little Muppet epaulets made out of fur.
It'd be so awesome with the eyes on them.
Fur epaulets.
Oh, that'd be great. But now that is part of what we do, or it's part of what I do when I'm told I need to, look for new puppeteers.
Yes.
I want to find somebody that fits into the group, that fits into our vibe, that fits into who we are. And because we're a very diverse group of people, but there's something about us. There's an openness, an acceptance, apart from being creative and funny and all the things that you need to have.
And all those technical skills, all of those technical skills.
All of it all wrapped up into
I like it.
It's tough to find those kind of people.
I like it.
Let's take a pause real quick because I can sense my son. Yes. What? Oh, how did I get back to the puppets?
That's right. We need.
Oh, look, Flynn, come here.
That's a really great question.
Come here. Get on the mic.
And ask this question.
Ask this. This is a good question.
How did you get back on the Muppets when you shut them down?
You mean how did I bring the puppets out of the closet again?
Yeah.
That's a really
good question,
Flynn. Thank you for asking.
Put on those cans. We call those cans. Good job.
My son doesn't know me or anything about me. I've not told him my life story before.
In case
That's a great question. So I didn't take the puppets out of the closet for a very, very long time because I was scared. I didn't feel confident to do that.
Yeah.
I felt like there was another thing that I was supposed to do. And I actually had a great time being an actor and doing that. I had a great time doing that. And then somebody had heard somehow, I don't know, at college, they said, I heard you have puppets. And I was like, yeah, I guess I do. And they were like, can you bring them to the freshman welcome orientation? And I was like, yeah. And I was like, okay. And so I brought a couple puppets to the freshman orientation. I was a sophomore, and that's kind of when I brought them back out.
Can I tell you something? This just makes me think of a story from my own life. So I was also obsessed with puppets when I was little, and I had all the Muppet dreams. And I remember even saying to my former brother-in-law, I remember riding around in the back of his car, and he said, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I said, I want to be a puppeteer. And he said, you can't make any money doing that. And I was just like inside it. I didn't say anything, but I was like, right. And then I would take puppets I remember going to like basketball games and other elementary school social events. And I was so scared that I would take puppets I had made, puppets I had bought, because I thought this is going to kill. This is going to rock everybody's socks. Guess what didn't rock anybody's socks?
Puppets.
Me sitting in the bleachers at a basketball game, fully as if I had a friend, an extra.
Oh,
I was making my own friends.
I know. Yeah. That were on your hand.
Yeah.
That was, I
don't
know.
think I ever got the puppets back out though, but Matt, you did.
I did.
Was there enough time and space between the high school talent show episode that you were like, okay, I'll give this a spin? I've been safe with my kindred people.
Yes.
And I feel safe.
And I went to a conservatory of theater arts. I went to an acting school.
Yeah.
So I was
they're
already
appreciate
that. They're going to get it and understand. So I feel that, how do I even put this into words? It it's very difficult for me sometimes to just talk to people that aren't my friends or the people that I work with or people that I'm comfortable with. I have to kind of put on actor Matt to be able to do that.
Same. Why do you think I was sitting in those bleachers with a puppet on my hand?
Yes.
Right. But
Same.
we have 5 kids. They have friends. Their friends have parents. And it is difficult for me to just have a conversation with somebody because I feel so foreign. I feel like they're not going to get me, and I don't know if that's residual from growing up and feeling that way, and it's just been with me, or if I'm just
How do you feel when you're at work and you're rocking the puppet? How do you feel then?
I feel totally confident.
Do you feel free?
There are times when I feel like I'm an imposter.
Sure.
Because I can't believe that I am where I am.
Right.
And I've worked very hard to get where I am.
Yeah.
But there's something in me that I'm like, somebody's going to catch on.
Well, it's still that voice of like, you can't make money doing that, or no one has this actual job. And now you're like, but I do have this job.
Yeah. I never dreamed that I would be doing this. And now here I am doing it. And it is, and probably always was my dream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I didn't know it yet. I didn't know it.
So when you started going to workshops, obviously you were building these relationships, and then you were at some point, you're on board at Sesame Street.
Yes.
And can you just quickly tell us all the various things you've done there, including your captaincy?
Sure.
Sure.
Hopefully
With the puppets.
your admiralty.
Yeah,
Fingers crossed.
We'll see when the elections come around. So I think I had done the Thanksgiving Day Parade. Every year the Sesame Street does the Thanksgiving Day Parade, and we're a part of it. And I think the very first year I was Bert, because at that time it was Frank Oz that played Bert, but he's not going to go do the parade. He's somewhere having Thanksgiving dinner with his family. So I was doing Bert, and the guy that plays Telly, his name is Martin P. Robinson. He's
Marty Robinson.
Yep.
He was playing Telly, his character, and I don't know that I'd ever met Marty before this morning, and we are in that
He's
float.
so funny.
He's very funny, and especially as Telly, who's one of my favorite Sesame Street characters. And I'm playing Bert, and it's you can pretty much yell whatever you want because the people down on the street can't really hear you. And Telly is yelling. I would say stuff like, "Hi, happy Thanksgiving," and Telly would say, "Who's that? You're not Bert. You're an imposter. This man's an imposter." And
my gosh.
he was just messing with me.
Yes.
And it was hilarious.
Busting
But that
your
was
Muppet chops.
he was really.
my
But that's kind of what you do when the new guy comes along. But shortly after that, I got a call from that same person that had given me the rejection letter that had then accepted.
Okay.
Me. And she said, "Can you do a Big Bird voice?"
Oh.
I don't know. Yes.
Yes.
Because I guess you're supposed to say
Of
yes,
course.
right?
Sure.
So
Sidebar, sometimes I just like to make Matt Vogel say inappropriate things as Muppets. We're not going to do it on mic.
probably shouldn't do here.
How could you tease like that?
Sidebar concluded.
How can you tease?
Counselor, you were saying.
So I got this audition. They said that Carol Spinney, who at the time was 64 years old at the time.
Yeah.
And he was looking for somebody to kind of to train. Mm-hmm. And I met him, and I wasn't on Sesame Street yet. I was just a guy that was coming in and meeting him with 4 other guys that were on Sesame Street.
Uh-huh.
And I came in and met him, and the person introduced me. Her name is Renee Rochelle. She introduced me to Carol, and she said, "Carol, this is Matt Vogel. Matt Vogel, this is Carol Spinney." And Carol Spinney went, "Your name, Vogel, means bird. This might be the job for you."
Oh my God.
And that's before the audition.
Gets me.
And I was like, oh, great. So I did the audition. Carol did pick me, and he trained me for 20 some years. He was, he's one of my mentors on Sesame Street. And throughout that time, I would double for him or sub for him when he was playing Oscar and Big Bird was in a scene with him, or I would do live appearances that he was unable to attend. Throughout this whole time, that was 1996. Carol just retired officially for season 50, which was this year. So he was on that show for 50 years.
Side Spark, there's a fantastic documentary that, Matt, you actually appear in.
That's right.
That chronicles his creation of that character.
It is. It's called I Am Big Bird.
It's wonderful.
It is really great. And it really is a love story between Carol and his wife, Debbie.
It's amazing.
Wonderful.
When I saw it in a movie theater, and I openly was sobbing so loud that Flynn, it was embarrassing for me and everybody else. It's a wonderful, wonderful
so great.
film.
It's really great. And it really shows you who
he is,
who Carol is and who Debbie is. And his wife is wonderful. They've always treated me like a son. They've always been so generous and kind with me. And so he was one of my mentors on Sesame Street. Another man named Jerry Nelson, who played the Count on Sesame Street, he was another one of my mentors. And I would assist him as the Count. I was his right hand. So
literally his right hand.
So if you think of like the Cookie Monster, there's a dude that operates his head, and the left hand, his real hand is inside the left hand, so he can pick up cookies and eat them. Right? And there's another performer that's in the literal right hand, using their live hand to shove cookies in Cookie Monster's mouth.
Yeah.
Well, I was doing that for the Count for many years, and Jerry, as he grew older, wasn't able to hold his arm up above his head. So I would have to do that. And I would have to sit on set live. Jerry would sit where you are, Laura, and he would have a mic on, and I would have headphones on like I have now. And he would deliver his lines live on set. And I would have to, we call it catching. I would have to catch the lines and perform them in a scene, like keeping the energy of whatever Jerry is giving or whatever's happening in the scene.
What a collaboration.
It was a really cool collaboration. And I was able to really, I had him in my ears, and I could hear his breath, and I could hear him talk. And then I was able to catch him. It was amazing. It was a lot of fun. And so now he passed away several years ago, but I've now picked up that character in his absence.
That must be, you work so closely together, literally working together to embody a single character.
Yes.
And I think when transitions like that happen, like his passing, that must be a really significant loss.
Yeah. It is. Yeah. I mean, he was a very good friend of mine, and I only knew him for a handful of years, really, from the 90s to when he passed away, but I felt very close to him. And I know there were other people on set on Sesame Street, people are there and they stay there. I mean, there's a cameraman that's been there since day one, and he's still there.
Yeah.
And when we do feel it is a significant loss, because there's that, he was so creative, and Jerry, he had this amazing singing voice and a wonderful character voice. And the thing about Jerry that he did that I should mention, one of the things that I always say when I'm talking about Jerry is that he told me once, he said, Matt, working with Sesame Street and the Muppets is great. It's fantastic. You'll be able to make money. You'll be able to educate children. It's all great. But you always need to have something that's yours, that is your own, that is apart from this. And Jerry did that. Jerry, he was a part of a band. He made his own music.
We always like to ask our conversation partners to give us just like some good creative advice. That is such good creative advice.
It is. It really is. And it's so true. I mean, you do. And that is the thing that now I pass along to other performers.
But you live it.
And
you are always making things that are yours.
I try anyway. I mean, there are times when it's more successful and times when it's not. But yeah, I do.
Can you tell us a little about the other things that you consider yours?
Sure. Well, I had a band. It's not really active anymore, although I like to pretend that it sometimes is. I had a band that a couple of guys in college and I, after we had moved to New York, we kind of got together, and we just would get together every week, and we would rehearse in a music rehearsal room. And I didn't know how to play instrument or anything.
Is that true?
I didn't know how to play anything.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know how to play the bass. I was the default bass player in the Mighty Weaklings, our band, because I was the singer, but no one else wanted to play the bass, so I had to learn.
Guess I'll learn that.
Yeah, and I have had. I mean, we played out in New York City for years.
Music videos.
Just every once in a while.
Fun fact, the Mighty Weaklings actually perform the theme song to Side by Side by Susan Blackwell.
That is correct.
Now in its 10th year on Broadway.com.
Yes.
That's the Mighty Weaklings.
Yeah, that's the Mighty
big.
Weaklings.
That's
and so
big.
that is one of the creative outlets I'd say that I have, that is writing music. And it has helped me in times of not just in times of, it's helped me in not only great times like just being with friends, but it's also been it's kind of healed me a little bit. My dad passed away in 5 years ago, and it's hard to process that. Losing a parent is a thing that we all will go through, and you just don't know how you're going to react to it.
That's right.
Until you don't know what it's like until you've experienced it. And about maybe a year after that, I just started writing something like music. I just started writing this song. I didn't know what it was going to be. And I just kind of kept working on it, and I just kept writing it, and I kept adding to it. And then it became like 2 ideas. And then I think there was a 3rd idea. And then it became like this little record of three songs that I had made. And they were all just different ideas that reminded me of my dad. One was about my dad literally talking, and it's his voice. It's an interview that I did with my dad, and I just set music to it. And it just, to hear his voice and to hear his laugh, or to hear him talk in this way, is healing to me. And then the other song is about his illness, and saying that he was going to be there. He would be there. He would try to make it past the fall, but he didn't. And that's what that song was kind of about. And then the 3rd song is kind of this, I don't know what it's called. It's called it's called The Engineer Is Gone. And it's just this, my dad loved model trains. And so I just had this vision in my head of the people on the model trains not having the engineer to put them around the track, I guess.
Yeah.
I think that's
Is the song written from the point of view of the little people on the model train?
Kind of. I mean, not explicitly. And I think
kind of.
I am the person on the train, really.
Yeah.
My family, that my brother and I, we are the guys on the train.
Do you feel like making those things, did that help you process the passing of your father and grieve it?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it did. But I wasn't setting out to do it. It just kind of was one of those
That's
things
how
that
it came out.
happened.
Yeah.
And it became these things.
We talk about the idea of creating. Sometimes we are creating for other people, and sometimes we're creating for ourselves. Did you have any idea going into that process of like where it was going to go, or just like, I'm fine if I'm the only person who ever hears these songs?
Yeah, and I probably am one of the only people that's ever heard it anyway. I mean, I put it out there just to be like, this is
I've
a
heard
thing
those,
that I've
but
done.
I've heard them.
Yes, I think, I remember you talking about that with me once. But it is something that I put out there, and I don't know that was ever my intention, but I felt the need to share that.
Yeah, and
Because
express
it was something about my relationship with my dad, I guess. I don't know what it is exactly, but I felt compelled to do that. Had I not done that, that would have been fine too. But something compelled me to finish it and get it out there.
It taps into one of the reasons I really wanted you to be on the Spark File, because I feel like you are a person who just lives and breathes creativity. You're just sort of endlessly living and breathing it in all different sorts of ways, shapes, and forms. And I find that super inspiring.
Well, I would say though, I feel like I work best in collaboration with other people. You know, I'm usually not the person that comes up with that initial idea, or if I am, I need somebody to bounce it off of and to help flesh it out. That being said, those songs were literally just me.
Yeah.
But that's a rare thing for me. I feel like I feel like, yes, I'm creative, but I feel like I need
we call that, you need to have your sponge pressed. Gavin Creel has this metaphor where from the outside you might just look like a dry sort of sponge, but if another person comes over and just presses your sponge, all this sort of creative goodness comes out of it. You just need to have your sponge pressed, honey.
Yeah.
That's all.
I like that.
Do you?
I do. I'm thinking about it. I want to like it.
Sleep on it.
Yeah, all right.
I want to like that.
I want to like
That's
it.
my new
like
response to when I see something and I'm like, I
I
wanted to
wanna
like
it.
that.
I really wanted to.
Mattress, is there a creative thing that you know you need to do before you're done?
Nope. No.
Unexpected answer.
No,
Yeah.
God, that's a really interesting thought that I don't know that I've ever had before. I mean, I'm so fortunate that I get to do all the things that I get to do.
Yeah.
And I do consider myself an actor. I still consider myself an actor. I'm just an actor from as my
elbow
colleague,
up.
Yeah, my colleague Peter Lynn says we're actors from the elbow up. And I've gotten to do some really, like, for what I do, some pretty deep acting challenges. And I don't know.
We also sort of listed the number of aspects of creativity that your puppeteering work has afforded you so far. This is what we know of. You are a scripted performer, an improviser, a writer, a musician, a director, all within the capacity of your work at Sesame Street.
Yeah.
And so I wonder if that's part of this, like, fulfillment that you feel like that you do get to play with lots of sides of your creative brain.
I do, yes. Sesame has been very generous to let me direct episodes, and I'm the puppet captain for them, so I kind of help spearhead their talent, the growth of their talent, and then maintaining the current talent. And I do feel fulfilled in a lot of those different ways. I'd love to create a show. I would love to create a show.
This is what I'm talking about.
For
TV
the Muppets.
show?
Yes, I would love to create a show for the Muppets.
Okay.
Because I think that's fun. I would love to create a show that's not for Muppets, but maybe it just has some sort of, not necessarily, maybe some sort of kid-friendly educational aspect to it. I think that would be great.
These are good.
I'd like to do those things.
Do you crave any more band work, some live stage performances of any kind?
Maybe not with the band. I love seeing my bandmates when I can.
Yeah.
But to get out there and do like a band thing is a lot of work.
It's a lot.
It's hard.
It is.
And
You've got 5 kids.
I don't have the time.
Yeah.
People. No,
Did it.
but I love to create. I'm trying to create new music when the mood hits me, and I just try to do things when it.
I feel like
comes
you're
to me.
keeping up with yourself in real time creatively, which I think is great.
It's great.
I think I am,
And
yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if you did create those shows that are sort of somewhere floating around.
I'm working on one or two of them.
Okay.
But who knows? Who knows what happens?
Yeah.
Who knows?
One of the things we're obsessed with on this podcast and in our lives, I think, is really how people process a perceived failure. We talked about the one in, the talent show and the Boo, but since that time, have you faced any sort of challenges or failures, things you perceive to be a failure, and how did you process it?
I'm always aware that anything I'm doing with the Muppets or Sesame Street is being seen under a microscope.
Got it.
At the beginning of me doing this, like only 2 years ago, I thought, oh, I'm a failure.
Right.
But then I realized my job is to try to recreate a version of Kermit that I was instructed to recreate. That's what I'm trying to do, whether I fail or whether I succeed. That is my goal. I desperately want to be approved of and liked.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I cannot let that be the reason why I'm doing what I do.
Right.
That's not the reason.
We're just talking about this. What is the measuring stick for success or failure, and who do you let hold it? Who do you let manage it? Are you
Who defines
keeping it? Are your colleagues and your peers at Sesame holding it?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of it in with my colleagues because some of them have been doing it for longer than I've been alive. And some of them have been doing it for, and I trust them, and they're good friends of mine, and they knew Jim Henson, and they, they have been in it for a long time.
Right.
And then others are my age, and they are my peers, and they are my colleagues as well. And I trust them because they are amazing performers. And so when something goes right, or I feel like something goes right, and we all kind of have that little celebration of it, I know that it's good.
Yeah.
I know that it's good. I feel confident.
Those are
in that.
good measuring stick holders.
I think
That's
so.
right.
I mean,
Keepers
less
of the stick.
me. I think it's less me going like, because
the
I'm
best.
never going to be satisfied with what I do.
Yeah.
I will always, unless I just go, you tell me if you want me to do it again, I'll do it again. If you don't want me to do it again, I'm good. We're going to move on because I will circle around in
So
this forever.
you entrust the measuring stick to people who are in the arena, who are doing the work, who you love and love you.
Mostly, yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
love
I
it.
have to trust them. I have to kind of give, and that's what happens. Whether it's
Yes.
whether it's the Muppet writer, whether it is, the cameraman on Sesame Street, whether it's the guy, that's playing Grover next to
Right.
me.
You
I
all
have
are
to-
you are working in such tight collaboration with each other.
Yeah.
You would have to.
And they're all qualified opinions. They're all people who have your best interest and the interest of the show at heart. So I can imagine that compassionate, constructive criticism is what they would offer. Like there's no good in breaking.
And then there's Marty Robinson.
And then there's Marty.
Busting your balls.
Imposter.
Yeah. The thing that I try to take with me that I learned a long time ago was hearing about how Jim Henson would work. And there are many instances of Jim saying, Jim always operated as the best idea wins.
Mm-hmm.
They were all in service of the best idea. Didn't matter who it came from. Mm-hmm. If it came from one of the other performers or the director or the cameraman or the janitor, it did not matter.
Janitor Pete's got some great ideas.
Yep. And Jim would listen to the idea.
The Janet is also a Muppet. Just picture it.
Yes.
Which is okay.
Picture
because
it.
anyone can have that
A great
idea.
idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they would take that idea, and if it was good enough, then they would go with it.
Yeah.
I mean, they would use it in something.
I'm going to jump to this. Matt,
Do it.
what's it all for?
As Kermit the Frog said, to make millions of people happy.
I'm going to bust into tears in your basement.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
I think it is. I mean, I think that's why I enjoy doing this.
To make
I enjoy doing this because I know that it makes people happy. I've
But
seen it.
but hold on a second. It makes millions of people
Millions
happy.
of people happy.
Yeah, that part I kind of like
Wrap your
maybe
mind around
don't-
it.
No, I can't.
Yes. It
Listen,
makes
big boy.
I can't.
millions
But
of people
it is.
happy.
And we go out in the real world and we see people. We spent the whole summer going out to different cities across America, and we were meeting people that would come up to us and say, you taught me how to read.
Yeah.
Or, you taught me
Oh,
my numbers.
gosh.
Or you taught me how to be kind.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's when you really know that you're
I have
making
to-
an impact when somebody says something.
Hearing you
like
say that makes me so proud of you. I was proud of you
Yes.
before, but I got a little extra swell of pride.
It makes me really love, like, your guiding principle actually came from, like, in the words of the character you play. It's like having an alignment of goals in a way, and the mantra. And I mean, that's so Sesame Street, that it is all so clear. It's all together. Can you share something, what or who is sparking you these days?
Sparking me these days.
Anything that a book you read, a movie you saw, an idea or
Conversation with
concept
your wife.
bouncing around. Flynn.
Flynn is a constant source of joy and pride.
He
for
really
me.
is.
He's such a little goofball.
Yeah, he's the best. Anything really exciting?
Some things I can't talk about yet.
That's right. I
So
understand.
I'm like
That's
trying to
right.
figure out like what I can, because there is this thing that I can't talk about, but it is something that
Yeah.
Something you're working on?
yes.
Yeah.
And it's real. I can see by the look on your face, it's really exciting you.
Yes.
And it keeps coming to the forefront.
Yes.
We don't have to name it, and you don't even have
Yeah.
to describe it.
Okay,
You
I'm
will
not going to.
Don't violate your non-disclosure
I can't.
agreement.
Well, it's my own non-disclosure. But
Or did you originate this?
no, someone I heard
Another
of that
human
I've
being
met before had this idea, and we've been talking about it, and we've been developing
How
it.
long have you been?
Since 2017.
Awesome.
And
Awesome.
and every time we talk about it, we expand on it, and it becomes it's a super cool, fun thing. And we just keep talking about it. And then when we talk to somebody about it, like when we're off the air, I'm going to talk to you about it in a minute. And then maybe you'll be like, or maybe you'll be like, oh my gosh. And it's infectious almost.
That is, I can see
yes.
it. Okay, great.
Yeah.
It is
we
an
can see it.
infectious
An
spark.
unnamed spark.
Yeah. So
I love it.
We'll see.
One day we'll know, and we'll come
I hope
back
so.
and
I really do. I hope
Remember that day in the basement?
We will.
Yeah.
Oh.
So, Matt, thank you so much.
Well, thank you for you being gentle with me.
Oh,
Thanks for inviting us into your home.
Yes.
into my
And letting us
basement.
get up into your business. That's it. I hope that this put another bunch of sparks in your file. Listen, if there's a spark you'd like us to explore, or if you've taken a spark and you've fanned it into a creative flame, Matt Vogel,
Yes.
and you'd like to share that, why don't you email us at thesparkfile@gmail.com or submit it through our website, thesparkfile.com.
we'll even take your feedback, but you know the price of admission. First, you got to share a creative risk that you've taken recently.
And be sure to subscribe to this podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe, rate, 5-star review it. If you like this podcast, share it with people you love. If you didn't like it, go listen to S-Town. That podcast will blow your mind. And if you don't like that, we cannot help you. Go watch a rerun of Lawrence Welk.
If something tickled your fancy today and got your creative juices flowing, we're writing you a forever permission slip to make that thing that's been knocking at your door. It's your turn to take a spark and fan it into a flame.
You got to puppeteer it. You got to Shakespeare it. You got to do a magic act and full on disappear it.
You got to take it and make it.
Bye, Matt.
Thanks. Bye, Matt.
You were talking to me that whole time, right?
That's right.
It was all for you.
directly to you.
Subscribe.
When I bump into something that inspires me, I dump it in my spark file. Could be something that I wanna make or how I wanna be. I pump it in my spark file. I jump into my spark file. Let's open up the spark file.
Hi, friends. Susan Blackwell from the Spark File here to let you know that the doors are open for the Spark File Illume, a 9-month group creativity coaching mastermind that invites you to be the chief creative officer and chief marketing officer of your creativity. But what does that mean? That means in 9 months in Illume, you will clarify and advance your big creative goals and learn how to effectively share your work with the world. Now, if you're listening to this and you're an experienced creative or an accomplished professional who seeks a space where it is safe to attempt something you've never tried before, or complete a big creative project, or take your work to the next level and acquire the skills needed to share your creative work with the world, Illume might be right for you. We are calling in emotionally intelligent, high-functioning creatives who are ready to level up. You can find out more by going to thesparkfile.com/Illume, but do it now to find out if Illume is right for you and to save with early bird discounts. That's thesparkfile.com/Illume. Take a leap, take a risk. Go to thesparkfile.com/Illume and join us for Illume.